I lost my home. I've had the sheriff department show up to the rental house that I moved into, towing away a vehicle that I couldn't make payments on, while my wife had friends over. Talking about an embarrassing rock bottom moment for a provider. If you're a business owner listening to this, or you're upper management, or you're thinking about starting a business, you can find me and my products on profitx.co. I'm very passionate about profit sharing. I know what it's done for my life. I know what it's done for my team members, the lives that I've changed.
Would you prefer the cowboy hat on, or would you prefer the cowboy hat off?
I was born and raised in Bakersfield, California, where Merle Haggard and Buck Owens and Dwight Yoakam all started the Bakersfield sound. I'm totally cool with the cowboy hat.
All right, Rob. So for those who may not know anything about you, because I always think about a person who's just starting to come on, give everyone your value and what you're doing to help alleviate pain and challenges and who you help.
I'm a pretty typical blue-collar construction worker. My dad's blue-collar. My entire family on both sides. My mom's side of the family are a bunch of painters, and my dad's side are mechanics and equipment operators. And I was going down that route. I was 25 years old. I was a construction commercial superintendent, and the housing crash of 08, 09 happened. And from that aftermath, I lost my job and found myself a unemployed, unplanned business owner. And my wife was pregnant with our second child. And I just started doing every job I could to make ends meet at the time. And I was good at it, starting the small business. In a pretty typical fashion, I found myself 3-4 years in, overworked, unhealthy, a alcoholic or on the verge of becoming an alcoholic. Didn't see my kids a lot. It was just immense amount of hours and stress going down this journey of entrepreneurship. I just looked down the road of my life and other older business owners that I knew, and I just thought to myself, I didn't want to go down this road. I began this journey of self-education by reading books and listening to podcasts, a lot like this one. I got immense value from those activities, and I put those things into action, and I started to see my business improve, not just financially, but operations were better. I got addicted to this process of improving the operation, and I link it to fitness. People get addicted to feeling that high from working out or feeling good. And when you eat clean food, it's the same thing in business. It feels good when things are running smooth, because that's not always the case. And as you grow and scale, there's a new challenge. There's a new bump in the road that you get to figure out. So I get addicted to this action of improving and leadership and making the company, all the companies that I own now, run better and smoother, more profitable. And that's how I got here. And I'm addicted to that. And I want to share what I've learned in my journey, because I've learned so much from others sharing what they've learned by reading books and listening to podcasts.
You mentioned alcoholism, and I do want to say I appreciate you being very transparent with me. May I have your permission to peel that
Sure.
onion a little around that
Sure.
journey
Yeah,
you had?
absolutely.
You said you had turned to that and then you started reading books. Was there any kind of defining moments or anything you read that you can recall best to your recollection that really turned that light switch on?
I don't know if this moment in my life was, specifically about alcohol, but I had a mentor of mine at one point in my life. This is a big moment. And I was already at this point reducing the alcohol. There's still alcohol in my house and I still enjoy a drink, but I don't look forward to it. It's not a big part of my life. It's not something that I'm waiting to get home to do. It was in other parts of my life. There were times I'm sitting in traffic on the way home thinking about that Coors Light in the fridge. That thing's going to taste so good when I crack it open. It's hot today. I'm sweaty. And those thoughts don't enter my mind anymore. And I didn't have to do an AA thing and get it all out of the house. Back to this mentor I was talking about, I was complaining to him about my life. I was complaining about how the typical business owner complains. My employees don't think, care, and act like I do. My kids don't listen to me, or I'm frustrated by their level of discipline. My wife and I have a great relationship, but there's still some frustrations there too. She has her goals and ideas, and I had my goals and ideas, and Sometimes they clash. So I was just ranting about the typical struggles of life to this guy. And this guy grabs my belly fat and says, "Why would anybody listen to you when you don't even listen to yourself?" And that was a moment I got goosebumps just telling that story because in that moment, it was, man, I can't even say no to that beer. I can't even say no to the ice cream. I love peach cobbler. I still enjoy that. My mom made some the other day, but I couldn't say no to that enough to have control, to have discipline in my own life, to be an example to others, for one. The biggest driving force to this change was just being an example to my sons and my daughters, my kids. I wanted my daughters to see an example of who they should marry, what a man should look like, act like, what he should be doing. And then I wanted to give an example to my sons of what a real man was. That's, as a father, that's my job. Your daughters are going to marry a man like their dad. Or if they hate their dad, they're going to marry the exact opposite, which maybe not even always be the best case either. And your sons are going to become you. Those are huge factors that was that moment when he grabbed my love handle on my belly and said those things really started to change for me. And I started to ask myself these hard questions of, why am I eating this? Why am I not going to the gym or taking that serious? And I've always liked being active. I played sports in high school. I wasn't a total crazy overweight slob, but I struggled with it and it weighed on me. And doing that, having that discipline, being that example for my kids has transitioned into the business world, has transitioned and improved my leadership. It's just cleaner water in the pond all the way. All areas of my life are clearer for me. My mental clarity, my focus has improved. So it's just been a huge benefit. I think I'm trying to remember the last time I had a drink, and I'm looking at my assistant like she's supposed to know. She has no idea, but it's probably been 6 weeks. And I don't even track it. I don't think about it. It's not part of my life. But if I'm at a nice dinner with my wife and she feels like having an espresso martini, I might have one too. But it's not something that's controlling me in any means. And it's really empowering. It really told myself too, is I can do anything.
Hmm.
I can control this, then I can control myself. If I can control myself, I can control how good of a leader I'm going to be, how much influence I can have with my kids and my team members and in my marriage. And there's nothing holding me back.
He grabbed your belly fat, and obviously that was a defining moment. He obviously had good rapport to do that too.
You know how guy friends are.
You're saying I can grab your belly fat if I meet you in person.
You sure?
You obviously had that mentor. You went through a transition, and I do want to commend you because I came from the stand-up comedy world. I understand addictive behavior. I've seen that culture. A lot of that's in the stand-up comedy world. Is there certain questions to this day, though, that run on repeat that are important to you to keep asking yourself every day so that you can maintain the focus that you have in your business, your employees, balancing the marriage? These are these key questions that once I got these down for Rob, and if I could transfer this to others, it would help other people who may be going through that same struggle, times of suffering or whatever that may be for them, that you still ask to this day that got you out of that you feel are the key questions for Rob to go from that pain to this pleasure and continuing that journey.
There are three questions that I ask myself every day. And the first one is in the morning when I show up to work, when I'm pulling into the parking lot of my office building and I'm walking towards the door to come in, I look at the door and this is a 9 second deal. This is not going to take a lot of time. And I just ask myself, what kind of leader am I going to be today? And it's just a few seconds. It's just a quick reminder to myself of when I walk in that door, who is Robert? What kind of leader is he? And what are we going to win at today? That happens every morning, Monday through Friday. I don't do that on Saturdays and Sundays. I don't typically come into the office those days. So that's question number one. And then when I get home, I ask myself two more questions walking up to my front door of my house. First question is what kind of husband am I going to be tonight? And what kind of father am I going to be tonight? And that also helps me frame I think if you're just aware, like you talk a lot about self-awareness in this world, social media world, the podcast world, self-awareness. You got to be self-aware. You got to know yourself and blah, 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 all this stuff. And I agree. It's powerful. If we're just aware of what we're doing, if we're just aware of the smile that we don't have or do have when we walk into that meeting, it makes a big impact. It's kind of thinking before you talk. If half this world or typed on social media or left a comment somewhere, if we just gave half a second of thought before we type those words out, how much different would the world be? Imagine taking that and just applying that to these little things in your life of just having that self-awareness, having those few seconds, really, that moment of awareness of what you're walking into and what you're doing. And those are the three questions I ask myself every day. I also challenge business owners listening right now, when you're walking into a meeting, maybe it's a sales meeting, maybe it's a safety meeting, maybe it's a meeting with your accountant or your CPA or whatever you're doing, ask yourself, what kind of business owner, what kind of leader, or what kind of person am I going to be inside this meeting? And a lot of times I'm human, just like you are and everybody else. You're kind of amped up certain days. Maybe you're tired, you're grumpy, maybe you're in a really good mood. And you shouldn't carry that really good positive energy into that meeting because this meeting needs to be a little more serious. Or maybe you're in a bad mood, but this meeting needs to be really positive and uplifting. And so just having that few seconds of self-awareness as you walk through that door can make a huge, huge impact.
You shared with me in the crash with real estate, your wife was pregnant with your second kid. I don't want these questions to just fall on deaf ears in case there's that critic out there, Rob, who might be thinking maybe those questions are just theory. Because one of the things people love to do is we all like to hold on to our stuff. I remember I was at a conference once, a guy said, if you think your stuff's bad, try trading it with someone else. Let's talk about what you've accomplished since the 2009 crash, where you were at, what business, and that transition time as to how those questions carried you into the accolades and accomplishments you have now.
Absolutely. That's a good question. During that time, I lost my home. I've had the sheriff department show up to the rental house that I moved into, towing away a vehicle that I couldn't make payments on, while my wife had friends over, talking about an embarrassing rock bottom moment for a provider, the father, the husband, the protector and provider of the family, having that happen. And then I started asking myself questions, and I was drinking every day. It was not a violent blackout drunk, but it was 4 or 5 beers every day. I'd never blacked out in my life, but it's just that's a speed bump every day and every morning for hours and hours. Anyway, so I started asking myself these questions. I was 23, 24, 25, growing through this stuff. What do I want the rest of my life to look like? And I was reading some books. I've always been a reader. My mom is a school teacher. You can imagine how that was drilled into my head. You read things throughout your life and you just start thinking, well, if I don't like today, what can I change tomorrow to have a better tomorrow? And one of my, that's which is simple to do. I ate this fast food today and I felt crappy the rest of the day. Tomorrow I'm just not going to eat fast food. It's easy to do for a day. How about we think, if I don't like how the last 6 months went, what can I change in the next month to make the 6 months after that better? Or a year? Or even look out ahead 5 years. Where do I want to be in my life? What do I need to do today to think about that guy? My wife says this all the time, and I learned this from her. We'll be chatting or be on our morning walks together, and she'll be like, today, Elise, that's her name, Elise. Thanks yesterday, Elise, because yesterday, Elise did this that set everything in motion for this activity, whatever it was, kids, school, sports, all the mom stuff. That made it so smooth. I was prepared today. So I want to thank past Elise. And that activity every day that what we do today makes a difference tomorrow. And our life is a layer of bricks. And those bricks get sideways or they get put in cricket or the grout's not enough. They start to fall apart down below. And we have to keep laying a good brick every day to build that foundation for the rest of our life. So that transition time in my life, those thoughts were happening. I was broke, and in debt at the same time. And we ate rice and beans a lot. And as the business was starting and I would get paid on a job, sometimes we put cheese on those rice and beans. That's how the the personal economics were working, and we were having kids. This is all pretty tough stuff. I just decided that this is not me. I hate this, I'm operating here, and I'm going to make a change. And it's going to take a lot of work, and I don't care if it takes 30 years, but I'm going to do stuff today that in 30 years from now, I'm going to look back on this time and laugh because there are lessons that I learned from. Thank goodness it didn't take 30 years. This stuff can happen really, really fast. But it takes a lot of effort and intentionality and asking yourself those hard questions and then the action. We can all have a plan. Everybody has plans. We all have dreams. But what's the action to get to those dreams? That's what separates the winners and losers. It was hitting rock bottom. And you hear this story a lot from people that are very successful. There's a rock bottom moment in their life, or a really poor upbringing, or a bad instance with their family, or something happened at school, a scary moment to where people start pulling out of that. And I think hitting rock bottom can be the best thing that happens for most of us. Actually, a lot of us need it because life is too easy. We have cars. Hunger is the most motivating factor in a human being's life. When you're hungry in your stomach and you're trying to get food, you're going to go get food. So trying to take in that motivation into all areas of your life to where you never have to feel hunger again.
It's hard for me, and I actually was trying to hold back tears when you were telling me about what you were going through, because I do feel like I'm more of an empath. You don't know this about me. A lot of people don't know this about me. My dad was in and out of my life. He left my mom. It's all this money. It's a long story. If ever you're bored and you want a quick story, if you ever look up the FBI murders on Google, there's a movie about it and everything. That was my dad's case that snapped his low point moment, but he couldn't bounce back. Just being real. You bounced back. You had 2 kids at the time. Because if I remember, I was doing a little research because I like to research everyone. You have more than 2 kids now, and it seems it's a very fruitful life you're living. Would you mind speaking to that?
The first business I started was Gallaher Company. It's my last name. It was a construction business, and we focused on the multifamily market. Doing maintenance. First thing we did were bathtub. We were swapping out bathtubs for apartment buildings, and that turns into concrete grinding, some painting and patching, kitchen remodels, and then it turns into deck repairs. And now we do all kinds of stuff except build the buildings. We fix everything. Right off the bat, I was financially successful, even though I didn't always know what to do with that money. But I took that profit, and the thought of paying taxes on all that was disheartening. I decided, well, if I can spend money and start a plumbing company, because a lot of my customers were complaining about their plumbers. I already knew that there was a demand for an honest plumber out there, and to my existing customers, great way to increase revenue is just provide more services to your existing customers. I dumped a bunch of money. I bought a van. I painted it. And I put a logo, and I went down to Home Depot one night with my wife and kids and bought $3,000 in plumbing tools. And I had a van ready to do plumbing service calls. And so I started the plumbing company in 2011, and those grew. And I don't know the exact employee numbers, but I want to say probably in 2016, I probably had 40 to 50 team members at that time.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty fast. Which is a lot of growth happening. Then I bought a tire store in 2016. And in 2017, I bought a car wash. In 2020, I started a restoration company where we do fire and water damage dryouts and rebuilds. And we also started an HVAC company in 2020. So all those companies are still around with the exception of the tire store. COVID was really hard on that business. And so I just turned it in. We still have the building and the site, but we just turned it into our shop. We have so many fleet vehicles ourselves now, and trailers and equipment and saws and all these construction toys that we needed basically a full-time mechanic to keep all those things on the road every day. So those are all the companies that I have now. This year in 2024, we started on it really heavy with starting another company called ProfitX. And that's where we're help business owners implement a profit sharing program, because that's what I did in 2015 was implement profit sharing and figure that out on my own, which has accelerated a lot of this growth that I'm telling you about, how I was able to grow these businesses. And I did it all on my own. There's no investors. It's me and my wife are 100% the owners. I didn't sell stock. There's no big bank notes that I took to fund this growth. We were just cash basis, that Dave Ramsey only buy it if you can afford it type mentality, which I learned when I went broke the first time in 2010. I just implemented that theory into my business too. That's where we're at today. I got 8 children now. I love coming home. It's a madhouse. We have chickens, dogs, cats. Not all the time. Sometimes there's a pony in my backyard, and I've come home and there's been chickens in my house and a pony on my back deck. I have not found the pony inside the house yet, but it's wild. It's wild. It's fun. It's crazy. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it, and it's very fulfilling. I lay in bed at night exhausted and happy.
So I want to ask a question for context around profit sharing. Do you know a lot of blue collar workers? In my opinion, if you really want to know what hard work feels like, I tell people who are white collar workers, you go hang out with a plumber for a day or a week or an electrician, and you're going to know what hard work feels like. Hands down. And just for context, when you say profit sharing, are you able to give insight into what that means for more context for maybe the blue collar worker who doesn't know that yet? Maybe a little context, and you can tie your solution to how you train people and do that. Because I was doing some research, and then I have some questions about change management when you grew to 50 staff. Post this question if that's fair.
Absolutely. Profit sharing is exactly what it sounds like. It's taking some of the profits that the company makes and sharing it with the people responsible for making those profits. The concept is simple. It's a buzzword. It's very exciting. It gets a lot of people's attention.
Yeah.
The problem, when I ran across this idea from reading a business book, it was a page and a half about profit sharing. It was just the theory, the idea behind it. And I was fascinated by it because my biggest struggle as a young business owner was no one thinks like I do. No one cares about this business like I do. And no one's working as hard as I am. And that's fair. I didn't expect to have an equal amount that they cared as much about this business, which was my baby, not their baby. But I wanted to bridge that gap. I didn't want people to just show up late, do the bare minimal not to get fired, and then try to leave early all the time. I wanted engagement. I wanted a motivated workforce. And I wanted people that thought in the same realm as I did because I was alone. It's lonely at the top. You're the only one thinking about payroll that week. They're not. They're thinking about their check, getting their check, but they're not thinking about making that check not bounce. So there's a whole different mindset change across when you walk into a small business of where people are at. And that was my frustration. And I knew that if I could bridge that gap, I didn't know how close I could get it. I don't know how close I can still get it in the future. But if I can get it closer, we could win more. Not just myself, they could win more too. Another thing that's frustrating is that annual review that we always, that your employee walks in and they're gunning to get that raise, and you're the business owner and you're not really happy with their performance. So you got your arguments and it turns into a fight. Nobody walks out of that meeting a winner. There's always well, that guy said this about me and he thinks he's all this and that. It's like a marriage fight. Nobody wins in a marriage fight. Somebody's still pissed off. And then how does that make the other person feel? You just made your wife feel dumb or you made your husband feel dumb. But is that really good for the marriage? There's no win-win. So profit sharing was my attempt at that. My frustration with profit sharing was after I found this idea, I'm going to read more about it. I listened to every podcast. Paul, I bought every single book that mentioned the idea of profit sharing in it. And all I found was theory, ideas, and it sounds great, basically. There was no nuts and bolts manual how to do it. There was no how-to guides. There was no spreadsheets. There was no metrics, nothing. It was all theory. So I decided, well, if the theory is so dang good, then I have to try it. One day I brought two of my top leaders in. I brought my sister in, who was at the time our bookkeeper, office manager, copier, filer. And then I bought the leader of the plumbing company into my office, and it was unannounced meeting. And I just sat him down. I said, I got this idea. I have no idea how to do it, but I know as much as I can about it. You guys together, us three, we're going to draw up a profit sharing plan that makes sense for the company. It makes sense for the team members. That's going to help drive profits. If we can motivate and unite our team, profits will go up 100%. And that's how it started. That was in 2014. That's 11 years ago now. It's crazy to think. We cut our first profit sharing check the first quarter of 2015. It was a total disaster. I did it all the ways wrong. Nobody gave the checks back, but it didn't move the needle. It didn't move the needle of thinking, caring, and acting more like an owner. And so that was frustrating for me, but we didn't give up, right? We kept at it. We communicated more. We changed some things. And it took about 3 years of back and forth and struggle. And I almost gave up like 3 times. I was just like, just forget it. We're paying out more money. We're not making more money. This is not working. And then in 2018, we got enough stuff right where it started to click. And click, it did. And that's when the construction, plumbing, the car wash just exploded because we were implementing it everywhere. And even the tire store did really well those years up till COVID. And then the street that we were on went from 40,000 cars every day, 4,000 cars every day. And when people aren't driving to work, they don't need tires, brakes, and oil changes. So that's what profit sharing is. That growth brought a lot of attention to me from my business owner buddies, my subcontractors, people I was doing business with. And so they started asking me a lot of questions. What are you doing? How did you go from one guy broke in debt to this profitable debt-free company in a couple of years? And so I just tell them like, oh, well, I do all this leadership stuff. We got core values. We got system and processes, all these things that I was just learning for free. And then I do this thing called profit sharing. And that's what everybody wants to know about, profit sharing. That's what they think the magic bullet is. And I do think there is a magic bullet type essence to it. You still got to be a leader. You still got to have core values. You still have to have system and processes. You still have to have some kind of sales funnel. You still have to have all these basic business 101 things. Profit sharing is just like the chocolate syrup on the vanilla ice cream, right? It just makes that good ice cream even better. I started spending a lot of my time talking to other business owners about it on the phone. I even had some come to my office and I'd look at their financials and I would help them come up with a plan. That somebody mentioned to me that you should write this idea down. It's obviously working for you. You don't have all the time in the world to be teaching every business that wants to know about it to do it. So I wrote a book that came out beginning of this year. It's on Amazon. It's called Profit Sharing, The Power of Shared Success. And we sell it for $10. I don't make any money on it. I just want to get it out there because I think if I can just return the favor of everything I've learned over the years. Book is good and a lot of information is there and it's a great starting point, but it's not everything. I did not want to have a 6-hour book. It's a 2.5-hour read, depending on your reading speed. I created a course with 27 videos that's out live now on profitx.co that you can go and purchase. I put out everything about profit sharing that I know. I put out there what doesn't work, what works, what not to do, what to do. I have the spreadsheets in there, the Excel sheets that we use to compute it. We have sample launch speeches. We have everything that you need to do before you implement your profit sharing and then what to do correctly to put your profit sharing program in place, all in one spot.
To quantify the time, 10 years, would you say 15 years to really get it right? Or how off am I in that number? You can correct me. How long to really get that profit sharing right?
I would say 3 years to see progress because we were doing a lot of things wrong. For example, our first profit sharing 1.5 years was quarterly because that's just what you hear, quarterly bonuses. Corporate America leans heavily on this quarterly bonus idea. And then the other side of that is the annual Christmas bonus. That's what you hear about or see in business in America. So that's all I knew. That's all I thought to do. And when we had this idea to switch it to monthly profit sharing. And
Okay.
what led me down that road was the quarterly bonus does not change anybody's financial monthly needle, their monthly financial needle. Our car payments are monthly, our cell phone bills, our grocery budgets, our rent, everything that we pay is based on monthly bills. When you pay someone a quarterly bonus, how are they supposed to plan, budget, or have that quarterly bonus actually influence their life? So when we switched to a monthly bonus, when we made the bonus a minimal of $1,000, a 4-digit number, because there was times when we were giving out $1,500 for 3 months. That's $500 a month if you do the math. It doesn't really help pay anyone's rent. Depending if you're a single person, it maybe pay half your grocery bills. It doesn't really change your life. When the dollar amount actually moves that needle, when it's paid out monthly, I have a bunch of rules in there to make it have the biggest impact. But basically, those are two big ones. When you do that, it actually changes the way people think. I saw estimators who spend a lot of time in their car stop listening to the radio and zoning out between job sites and actually start listening to audiobooks and podcasts about becoming a better estimator or a better leader or a better salesman. My team started to improve themselves because they saw that the better they were at their job, the better they can influence profit, which made their profit sharing checks bigger and more frequent. So there was a couple things that we learned throughout those first 3 years where we really started to see a shift in the mindset, and then we fine tune it after that. But I would say 3 years is really what it took to get the basics down. And if you read my book and you go through my course, those 3 years turn into 3 months. You hit the ground running. You're not going to repeat all the same mistakes that I did. You're going to know exactly where your threshold is for profit sharing. You're going to put the profit sharing costs into your P&L to where you're only going to pay it out if you make it more than what it costs you. There's really no downside for the business owner to do it the right way, which is what I'm teaching. In my opinion, this is the way to do it. I've proven it in multiple industries, in multiple companies with different personality, leadership, different trades all across the board. And it just works.
I will put your links and everything in the show notes. So I do want to encourage listeners to check out Rob's solutions. If I were to give it a basic pain-centered value proposition, the 15 or so years it took you to really project your business was profit sharing, and what it took you 15 years to take theory into proof, they can start to see those results if they apply what they learn from their content in 120 days. Contingent, obviously, leveraging your book with your solution course.
These business owners that are listening to this or sneak it in during lunch or whatever you want to do, it does take some time for that mind shift to change. You have to build rapport as a leader. You need to connect with your team members that this is real. Once you pay out that first month of profit sharing, you're going to set the threshold. So you're not going to set it too high, which is a huge mistake. It's one of the rules is setting your threshold correctly. And your people are going to get that check. It's going to be a substantial amount that actually affects their monthly financial needle. They're going to see the shift. And once that shift starts happening in your ranks, the cost of operating your business is going to go down because everybody's going to see that expensive copier paper is not worth it because the cheaper copier paper does the same thing. And they're going to start, that's a small dollar amount story. That's not going to move anyone's company's needle. But when everybody on your team starts doing these activities, going the extra mile, putting in the extra effort, they're a little more prepared for their projects, all these things that we talk about and dream about as business owners that our team members do, they'll start doing it. And the cool thing is they'll do a lot of it without even your direction. They're going to start taking initiative. Normally we buy 6 sets of uniforms for our 15 field guys, right? But I see a lot of them on the rack at the end of the week. They're only using 3. What if we talk to each tech and cut down to exactly what they really need or want, and we can cut our uniform costs in half? For 15 techs, I know that could be $1,000 a month. That's a lot of money. Those uniform companies are not cheap, right? Or do we really need a new rug at the front door if you get these delivery services every week? People don't even use the front door. How about we just put a new rug in there every month? And they'll start doing these type things. Hey, this software is great, but it costs $300 a month. We're going to shop and we're going to find a competitor to do it for half as much. Here's a story I tell. At my car wash, we mow our own lawns. Why am I going to pay a landscaper $200 a month to go mow the lawns? The maintenance guy, it's not a lot of grass. It's 2 strips of grass in the front. We'll buy a lawnmower for $300. It takes 10 minutes. Just go mow it and blow it. That lawnmower became 5 years old and broke down. And this all happened without me knowing. They basically got on YouTube, ordered a $12 carburetor rebuild kit, and fixed that lawnmower for $12, where a new one would have cost $300. They went the extra mile. They did some research to save the company money. And that maintenance guy's profit sharing check was bigger than it would have been if we just went and bought a $300 lawnmower, which I would have been totally fine with. It's $300. It lasted 5 years. That's a great ROI on a lawnmower, right? Just go buy a new one. They fussed with it and got it fixed in a couple hours and saved the company $288 that month. This is the little mindset shifts that start to happen in your company when you have a profit sharing program. And those are small dollar amount stories. What about when they're lining up a big window job on a construction project? They're going to double check the measurements on these windows. They're going to make sure that when those guys start that job the first day, they're installing windows that day. They're not screwing around doing staging or setting up or wondering which unit we're starting on. These details start to get hammered out because those are the details that increase profits at the end of every month, and they're going to get a bigger profit sharing check that month.
What would you say to the person who's hearing this and still has disbelief, the lowest person ever? What would you say to that person?
A couple of things come to my mind. You can't train ambition. You can't train attitude. The boss can't train that into their team. But that individual, they can make a decision to change their attitude. And they can make a decision to be ambitious. And you got to dig deep. I lost 40 pounds in 2022 to 2023. I made decisions that were hard. And I almost got to the point where I had to hate who I was. And this may not work for everybody. There's a lot of people walking, and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like how I felt. I didn't like what my kids saw when they looked at me. And I just made a decision that I was going to make a lifestyle change. This was not going to be a 3-week fast with going to the gym and all these huge goals that I'm just going to get hurt and burn myself out, which is what happened in the past. People have to look at themselves and ask themselves, what do they want the next 5 years to look like? And there's an exercise that I've actually heard, and I've actually taught my team this, is you stand up in your room. You can do this private. We actually did it as a group. It was really awkward. There was a lot of giggling, and I don't know how much people really got out of it, but I made everybody stand up in the conference room and close your eyes and just go through your whole body and your mental state. How am I feeling? How does my head feel? What does my hair look like? Did I shave today? Did I wear makeup today? How does my shirt fit? How are my pants fitting? What size are my pants? What size shirt am I wearing? What shoes am I wearing? Are they clean? Are they dirty? What's my bank account look like? The status of my bills this month? Am I stressed about money? What are my relationships like? You go through all the spokes of the wheel of life. How's my spiritual life doing? My financial, my physical, my family, all these things. And just take 5-8 minutes and just go through your life this way. And then you have a really good picture in your mind and your eyes are so closed and you're doing this. And then imagine the Paul standing next to you and create a Paul that you like better. How does his hair look today? How's his shirt fitting? What size is that shirt? What does his bank account look like? What does the relationship with his family look like and his friends? What is he doing for church? What is he doing for his own hobbies, right? What's his day-to-day or week-to-week look like? What is he wearing? What shoes is he wearing? What size is the pants that he's wearing? Physical and spiritual. It takes the whole person. And create this person standing next to you in your mind, this imagination person. And then you have where you're at. And you have where you're telling yourself you want to be. And no one can do this for you. You are painting this picture of yourself. And that's where the decision comes in. Do I want to be this person? And the answer is yes. We all want to be that guy. We all want to have the $1 million, the yachts, the nice home, the great marriage, the great perfect kids, the dream dog, all these things, whatever that looks like for everybody. Then it is, am I willing to do what it takes to get there? Will I be ambitious enough? Will I have the right attitude? Will I be prepared? Will I go the extra mile? All these things to become that person, to make that change in our life. If you're sitting here listening today, and if anything I said just triggered you, good. You need to get a little fire. You need to be maybe a little upset. You can hit me up on Facebook and tell me how cocky I am. That's okay. I hope you're triggered. And I hope that you paint that picture of your perfect self or your dream self that you want to be, and that you write down and start to plan out what it's going to take to get there. Action's great, but without a plan, action is not going to do anything. You're just going to run around your room in circles. Create a plan. Start reading books. I think every person that's successful in life, whatever success looks like for you, has a relentless pursuit of self-education. This day and age, we have never had more access to information than we've ever had in history. Sometimes I think that's a bad thing, but a lot of times if we choose to do it correctly and use that information correctly, it's a great thing. Books are cheap. Podcasts are free. YouTube is free. I was this morning in my garage with a buddy of mine working out, and we just got on YouTube and got an 8-minute stretch video for the end of our workout. It didn't cost us a thing. I learned some stretches that I never do, and my back feels amazing. It didn't cost me anything. It just took some effort, and I made the decision to do it, and then I took the action to do it. Everybody was born butt naked, and everybody, no matter how much money or how much success you have, still has to put their pants on one leg at a time. And you're no different. You decide what you want. Paint that clear picture. Think about that person every day and do something a little bit every day to get there. Now, after saying that, I have one caution. There's a reason why there's 30 steps on a 30-foot ladder. When you have a 30-foot ladder, there's not just 3 steps. You have to go one step at a time, and it takes time. Give yourself that grace to take one step at a time. We all slip down a step or two here and there. Michael Jordan didn't make every shot. He did not win every game. Just keep climbing that ladder every day.
Is there anything you're giving away right now that if people sign up for like your newsletter or anything, they get something for free?
We are giving away the 10 rules of profit sharing as a PDF. If you go to the website and sign in, just give us your email and we'll email it to you.